What's up everyone, and thank you for stopping by the channel. Today's project is this Toro Commercial mower, and the problem is it hasn't been used in a while, but now we've got to service it so we can get it back to work. Let's take a good look at it and find out what's wrong with it, and hopefully we can fix it. In this video, we try and repair this mower. However, it may not be the exact repair you need to make to yours. We'll explore other options later in the video. So this mower belongs to a coworker of mine. They used to use it as their main mower in their fleet. However, after using it for years, they finally got a new mower, so this one was retired. Now, after an extremely hectic year, he decided to bring it out of retirement, and that means we've got to do some basic maintenance to it while checking it over for possible issues. The first thing that catches my eye is a broken speed selector switch. Luckily, they still make this part, so we shouldn't have a problem fixing it. The next thing that looks strange is this handlebar bracket. It's been disconnected because somehow it got bent and won't fit anymore. It's supposed to be straight like this one on the other side, so we'll have to see if we can straighten it out. The next thing that's extremely alarming is the crack in the deck. They said that they're aware of it and are willing to take the risk, but I have to wonder how this even happened. My guess is whatever caused it also bent the handlebar bracket. If we look under the deck, we can try and inspect the blade. There doesn't seem to be any serious gouges on the edge of the blade, which is a good thing. That means we just need to remove it so we can sharpen it, but we'll do that a little later on. The next thing I want to check are the fluids in the engine, starting with the gas in the tank. It's hard to tell, but the gas looks and smells okay, but it's definitely got some age to it. The last fluid to check is, of course, the oil. Now, it looks clean, however, looks can be deceiving, so we'll drain it so we can get a better look at its condition. The other reason we want to drain the oil is there's too much in it. Too much oil in the engine can be just as bad as too little. Unfortunately, the oil is not hot, so it's going to take some time for it to drain out of the engine. That's fine because it gives us plenty of time to replace the other parts. Now, since we have the drain pan out, I'm going to remove the oil filter. Now, normally you wouldn't have to use oil filter pliers, but whoever put this one on obviously did not want it to ever come off again. Now, hopefully you would never need to use one of these, but if you do, you can find these online for less than $20. The next thing I want to do is inspect the air filter. Now, a great feature about this filter is that it has a washable foam element around the paper pleats. The bad part is that the foam makes it hard to tell how dirty the filter actually is. Now, this one is quite dirty, so we definitely need to replace it. So the next thing I want to check is the spark plug. However, this crash bar has been hit so many times that it's in our way, so I'll just bend it back. Once it's out of our way, we have plenty of room now to remove the spark plug. So this spark plug is covered in oil, and that means that either this engine is burning oil because of bad piston rings, or there's way too much oil in the engine. Well, we already knew that there was too much oil in the engine, so hopefully the rings are okay. Now, I could use a torch and burn off the oil, but I have to wonder if it would even work in this condition. What I'm going to do is put this plug and the new NGK plug that I'm going to replace it with in a spark plug tester. This way, we'll be able to see and hear the spark plugs working. Now, after installing the plugs, I'll turn the tester on and then increase the RPM from 1,000 all the way to 6,000 and see what happens. It was interesting that the plug covered in oil still worked, but it really only had one spot where it was arcing at, whereas the new plug had multiple places to arc at. Now, I know this was kind of an extreme test, but it did prove that the old plug would have at least started the engine. Now, too much oil in the engine would cause a spark plug to get this way, so make sure you do not overfill your engine with oil. And if you are interested, you can find this spark plug tester online for about $25. Now that we have all the parts, we'll start to replace them. The spark plug was kind of expensive at $5, but you don't have to change these very often. The air filter wasn't too expensive at $12, but once again, you don't have to replace them often either. Just inspect them at least once a year. Now, replacing the oil filter is kind of up in the air. If you're using your mower commercially, I would change it at least every year, and if it's not used commercially, I'm sure the time frame can be a little bit longer. Now, even though this filter is for a mower, it's priced like an expensive automobile filter at $11. Also, don't over tighten them, just make sure that they're snug. Now, I didn't film it, but the oil that drained out of the engine wasn't as clean as I was hoping for, so we're going to put some fresh oil in. Now, when filling your engine with oil, just take your time and use the dipstick to make sure that you're not over the full mark. Now, to get to the lever for the speed selector, we need to remove this cover over the drive belt. Now, someone must have lost one of these bolts because this one has the wrong size head. It also looks like these bolts are too long, as both of them have lots of washers underneath them. I'm going to reuse these bolts, but I'm going to have to modify them. What I'm going to do is cut some of the threads off. That way the bolts are shorter and we don't have to use all those washers anymore. So here's the lever, but we have a serious problem. Now, the lever is stuck in second gear and will not move to any other gear. That means replacing the lever isn't going to make it work again. To fix this problem, I would have to remove the transmission and take it apart to find out why the lever isn't moving, but unfortunately the risk of breaking a discontinued transmission is too high, so it's going to have to stay in second gear. While I'm here though, I will take this opportunity to grease this pulley. Now, with the bolts cut down about a 1/4 inch, we don't have to use all those washers anymore. I also need to remove the blade and put an edge back on it. Now, we're almost done, but we still have one last thing to take care of. Now, to get this bracket back into shape, we need to take it off the mower. Then I'll use a large hammer to persuade it back into shape. Now, for some reason, this bolt was being extra stubborn, so I had to use some lubricant on it to get it free. So it wasn't too difficult to get this bracket back into shape. The metal is actually quite soft. It probably only took about 30 to 40 seconds of hammering to get the job done. Now that it's the right shape, I'll reinstall it, and after that, I'll try starting the engine. I also just realized there are some grease fittings on the rear height adjusters, so I'll grease those later on. So it did not start, which is not a good sign. This time, however, I'm going to manually prime the carb with some fresh gas. If the engine starts, it would point to either stale gas or a choke issue as our problem. Now, after priming the carb with some fresh gas, the engine started and seemed to run just fine on the gas that was in the tank. So it looks like the throttle lever isn't working the choke like it's supposed to, and that would explain why the engine did not start. Now, the self-propel seemed to be working well, although the combination brake and propel lever might need some adjusting because I almost killed the engine when disengaging the self-propel. However, we're going to have to save that for another day. Another reason why this engine might not be starting is that the gas is just too old. Now, gasoline does not have a long shelf life, and if it has ethanol in it, it's even worse for small engines. If you think you have stale gas in your engine, you're going to have to drain the tank and empty the carb bowl as well. Then add fresh gas in the tank, and then hopefully the engine starts. So my question is, how often do you check your oil in your engine? Personally, I try and check the oil in my mower every time I use it, or every other time. Or do you think oil changes are overrated? Once there's oil in the engine, it's good for the rest of its lifetime. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate your time here. Please feel free to ask me any questions, and I hope to see you in the next video.